Now we're ready for the summary of all the space-saving features of square foot gardening. And this is going to depend on how far the plants should be spaced apart. We're using the exact same spacing in both cases. Single row gardening, we're putting in a row, and then the next row away is 3 feet away. That's very traditional. In square foot gardening, we're putting in a 4x4. We're walking around that box and reaching in. We've divided that box up with a grid into 16 individual square feet. And we're going to plant according to the plant spacing. Now let's make up a little chart here. Let's put in 3 columns. And the first column will be the name. The second column will be the spacing that it should be apart. This is when the seed packet says thin 2. And that's how we're going to plant them. In the next column is going to be the savings or the multiplication of square foot gardening over the single row garden. You could think of it another way. You could say this is how many times of plants you could put in. So let's look at this. First row would be carrots. Sorry, I said row. The first line will be carrots, and they're 3 inches apart, and you get 12 times as many in a square foot garden as a single row garden. That's per square foot. Then the next line would be beets, and they're spaced 4 inches apart, and there you get 9 times as many. The third would be lettuce, and these are spaced or thin 2, 6 inches apart, and there we get 6 times as many in a square foot garden. The last one would be peppers, or any plant that like that is planted 12 inches apart. And that we have a ratio of 3 times as many. And of course it's all because of those rows. Why do you think we have rows in a single row garden? Not because of the name, because it's a hand-me-down from farming. And you've got to get a tractor in there. First the mule, then the tractor, and they have big wheels. But why do we still do the same thing in our backyard gardens? And that's why it's called single row garden, because you space every single row apart. Terrible waste of time. And yet you have to dig up, fertilize, water, all that spacing. So that's a big reason that square foot gardening is so economical and so efficient. Just think how much more you can grow in a square foot garden than in your single row garden. Anywhere from 3, 6, 9, or even 12 times as much. That's a huge increase. Why, overall, if we took those numbers and averaged them, you'd have an average of about 7 to 8 times as much. That's a huge simplification and a lot of work saved, as well as a lot of space. That's another reason why your square foot garden can be located right near your house. It's not going to take up a lot of space. So many different advantages. I hope you can appreciate that and see from this lesson how much we're saving.